Okay. Um, so today we're shifting gears a little bit to talk about this transmission thing, if it's a thing at all, which will be interesting. Um, and so I don't have a whole lot prepared, and so I'm very curious to see what falls out of my face as I talk to you. But I wanted it to be something of a conversation. So you get to, and what I'd invite you to is kind of direct your inquiries towards what is this and what is it like? And in particular, thinking about transmission in light of Macy's work over the last week, how do we think about this as something shared as we look at it through the lens of interconnectedness? And then Peg's going to invite some more kind of Q&A a little bit later in the afternoon. So this is more about things you want to know about what I've been doing for the last little while. But I wanted to ground us in something. And so these are some words from Dogen and Shobogenzo. This is a section called Menju, and I'm just going to read a little bit of it. So there's a little bit to it. But I wanted to give Nishijima Roshi's explanation up front, and then I'll read what Dogen has to say. So the title of this fascicle is called Menju. Men means face, and Ju means transmission. Menju means the transmission of the Dharma from a master to a disciple face to face. In Buddhism, what is transmitted from a master to a disciple is not only abstract theory, but also something real, including actual conduct, physical health, and intuitional wisdom. Therefore, the transmission of this real something cannot be actualized solely through explanations with words or simply by passing on some manuscript. For this reason, the Dharma that Gautama Buddha taught has been transmitted in person from master to disciple since the days of Gautama Buddha. Without this personal contact, the Buddhist Dharma cannot be transmitted. And then he goes on to say what Master Dogen says. So I'll read what Master Dogen says in a minute. And again, I'll invite you to consider this, just to sit in a quiet space and let the words wash over you. So settle into a space that, a mindful position, something you can just hear Master Dogen speak to us. In this way, the true ancestral masters of successive generations have passed on the face-to-face transmission through the disciple regarding the master, and the master seeing the disciple. If even one ancestor, one master, or one disciple failed to give or to receive the face-to-face transmission, they would not be the Buddhas and the patriarchs. For example, and the patriarchs, yes. For example, in causing a stream of faith to develop by channeling water, or in keeping a light burning which makes brightness eternal, even in kotis of thousand myriad cases, root and branch are one. At the same time, the transmission is fleeting moments of cheeping and pecking. This being so, we have amassed an age of days and nights looking directly at Shakyamuni Buddha, and have amassed a generation of days and nights being illuminated by the presence of the Buddha's face. We do not know how countlessly many times this has continued back and forth. We should quietly consider it and be glad. It is the Buddha's eyes and the Buddha's countenance which have done prostrations to the Buddha face of Sakyamuni Buddha, which have moved the Buddha's eyes of Sakyamuni Buddha into our own eyes, and which have moved our own eyes into the Buddha's eyes. That which has transmitted this state face to face until the present without missing a single generation is the face-to-face transmission. The present several tens of generations of rightful successors are individual instances of the Buddha's face, and they receive the face-to-face transmission from the original Buddha's face. So there's Dogen. Before I say anything, I'm curious what strikes you from Dogen.
might be hard to verbalize, but there was something there about the sense I got was no teacher, no student. It felt there was I could see as I was listening to the words, the role of the teacher and the student going back and forth over many lifetimes, and the Dharma remaining the same. And that was what was being passed between.
Beautiful.
I was really struck by that phrase from Dogen's reading, root and branch are the same, which I think goes to what John Eric was saying, but it also reminded me of our Jukai ceremonies, very much so. And that's so powerful to think that what the Buddha felt, represented, and taught, you will now be representing and teaching. That's, to me, that's very powerful.
Yeah, it's not something different.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's all part of the same thing. I think there's this sense of, it's easy to slip into a space where you think of, oh, what I'm experiencing is fundamentally, like, it's not quite the same thing as what the Buddha encountered under the Bodhi tree. And then it's quite an arresting thought to go, oh, but it is. And that's something to consider. Joan.
Well, it just really hit me. Going from person to person throughout time, I could almost see the people hand in hand, and going on, and that it was unstopping, and it was really awe-inspiring to me to just think of it going from person to person without any interruption or any break in the chain.
And Peg and I were talking about, in light of the 200 years in the future exercise, one of the things that Peg was writing about was how she would look back at us and say, oh, we were so primitive, we made such interesting choices along the way. And how we can look back at our ancestors and go, oh my goodness, look at all the things that were going on, all the madness, the disease, the wars, and the fact that we're even sitting here in this room with these teachings available to us is miraculous. So thinking about how did that stream continue for so long unbroken that we here in 2025 can read something that's 800 years old and benefit from it. Rosemarie.
Yeah, Dogen's words were really beautiful. And like someone else said about the continuous line, this is just amazing. And the intimacy, this continuous intimacy between each of the pairs of teacher and student, it's kind of overwhelming in a way. And then the eyes of Buddha become your eyes, and that was just amazing. So beautiful. Thank you. Can we maybe have those words at some point?
Yeah, I'll figure out how to put them in a PDF and
Thank
get
you.
them.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Oh, Michael, yes, and then Leslie.
So it was absolutely beautiful, and it's in such contrast to something else I'm familiar with. So I'm familiar with the Jewish Hasidic tradition that started off with a number of people having experiences and the ability to transmit those experiences that to me seem analogous to the Buddha. But as the lineage progressed, other considerations, political considerations, came into play. And at each generation, a little bit was lost. The sense I have here is that it's not any kind of other consideration than seeing in the next person the ability to continue to transmit the Dharma. So thank you.
I thank you for that contrast. And that's something to see, to consider, hold it against. Leslie.
Is this, can I ask you a question?
Yeah,
or is this
go for it.
that later? Okay. What's striking me with this whole thing is the enormity of it.
Mm.
To me, this just feels like huge.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious if it feels that way to you, or if, through all the work you've been doing, if it just feels natural, which is different.
Yes. So when Flint and Peg approached me about this, my immediate heartfelt response was yes. Like, I didn't have to think very much. And then my head caught up with me. And it didn't happen right away. It wasn't like an hour later or a week later, but I started thinking about, oh God, the gravity of this. What is this? And then my head started spinning, and I had to sit with that for a while to let that untangle. So yes, there has been that. But the yes, that first yes, is the one I trust.
So I often get things wrong, but I think Peg said something about a week ago that it is the Sangha that is actually transmitting you, as opposed to Peg, and as we're all part of that lineage. And I really like that. There is no person, no individual person in a sense. So it's like the wind.
Mm.
And also, back in the day of Buddha, someone was transmitted by horseback. And I thought that was really interesting.
Huh.
Their papers were brought to them, and that was done. And it's really beautiful how we're doing it properly. Because I think technically it could be done very simply, right? As Joko Beck did.
As Joko did,
Yeah,
yes.
just like announcing it in a newsletter, you said.
Text message.
You just
Yeah.
give them a sentence, yes, you got it. That was it. Yeah, very, very simple, very plain. Yeah. Of course, this caused a lot of upheaval in the Soto Zen Buddhist Association. They felt like they had to go back and redo all those transmissions. And she was fully transmitted. She could transmit in any way she wished.
Yes, this has been different than that. It's been like a 9-month intensive so far. Yeah, that continues. So.
I have a question, which is, well, the question is formulating is, I know it's different, but talk about the difference between ordination and Dharma transmission.
Do you mean ordination or entrustment?
No, I mean ordination.
Ordination, priest ordination.
Yeah,
Like John just received.
like John just
Like
was.
John
Taquito.
just received.
Microphone, please.
I have a
Oh.
microphone.
Oh,
Peg doesn't.
Peg does.
Thank you. Yes, so in the tradition, Soto Zen tradition, Dharma transmission is much later than priest ordination. Although not as late in Japan as it is here. It might come 4 years later or something like that. And it's an independent authorization to teach, to open a center if you wanted to.
Ordination or Dharma?
Dharma transmission. So ordination is that step where you commit your life to this path. And not everyone who ordains will ultimately end up with Dharma transmission. Dharma transmission, in our understanding, is more direct and not so much about preserving temple life, which is a lot of what priests do, or serving in a pastoral role, let's say. So Dharma transmission has always been kind of idiosyncratic in Zen, And it's understood to be this kind of mind-to-mind, heart-to-heart connection that's immediate. So it's not a ladder rank promotion. I'll talk about that this afternoon. A little bit about how it's not you're moving up this ladder, or even that there's any inevitability to it. So, but ordination is this is the formal originally in the Buddha's time, it was setting aside your worldly life and following the Buddha as a disciple.
Ordination was?
Yes, yeah. It wasn't called ordination then, but it was the home leaving. And so it still has that title in Japanese, the Shukkei Tokudo, in which you leave behind your worldly concerns, your job, your family, your community, in order to take up this path of the priest. Right? So then, of course, oftentimes, as over time, that's been a kind of broadened, and they're not monastics all the time now, and they're in the community, and it's happened in most traditions, right? So they serve the community, and they serve the kind of institution, right? Dharma transmission means that a person may, first of all, I'll talk about this afternoon, but do certain ceremonies, and also that they can be independently teaching. They can go off and start a center in South Carolina. They can, and they would head that center up. A priest can't do that, doesn't have that kind of authorization. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Can a priest teach?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Definitely a priest can teach. Yeah. They can't teach independently of the temple or they can go out and give lunch and talks, you know what I mean? But they can't, they don't have standing in that same way. It's flexible in a way because we were out here in Texas, as a priest, I would often teach like in different places, but your authorization is different. You may not give the precepts formally, you may not entrust other teachers. So you can't, you're like a mule, you can't reproduce.
That's a good way to think.
Yeah, just think of it that way the next time you see a priest.
Go knock on John's door in the back. Just learned you're a mule.
And the thing I like about this piece that Nate read is that it's not talking about some advanced spiritual attainment. It's talking about a mind-to-mind transmission, which is very different from saying, well, you have to have had, this great enlightenment experiences, and what we're looking for really is someone who has the capacity to truthfully and faithfully convey the Dharma and to recognize that connection. Yeah.
I think those were some of my concerns early on was I'm not a monastic. I haven't spent time in the monastery, and I have immense reverence for the forms and the teachings and the practices there, and will continue to do so. But that was one of the little parts that flared up and said, what do you think you're doing? Like, you're just a teacher, like educator. You've got a family. And and then meeting those places, meeting all of those anxieties and worries about that. And then realizing, like we're living right now, it's the integration. That's the offering, like the integration of the teachings into daily life. It's like we come and we sit here and we go home, go to our work, go to families, do our things, and come back again. And that feels like it was actually recalling what this feels like that felt like a kind of energy behind this. Like, oh, yeah, that's okay. I can do that. So it set some of that at ease.
It sounds almost like not as much as you can do that, but you want to do that is what I'm hearing. Is that this is something you feel they saw in you.
Yes.
And that you felt that too, this wanting to do this.
Yeah, and it was what else would I be doing?
Yeah.
Was really the kind of the feeling of it. I've tried lots of other things. I've started schools and led organizations and done all the things, and none of it is as rich and as satisfying as this. And so the thought of saying, wow, or not even the thought, just the opportunity to say, I want to carry this forward, that's energizing. Mm-hmm. And see what wants to come alive now. If it is really this stream, unbroken, that's winding its way through here, it's just leaving aliveness all around in its wake, right? So why damn it? Yeah. I think we talk about transmission in this ceremonial way, like a particular act and continuation of the lineage. But one of the other ways to think about this, and as you think about what Dogen's saying, is all of us have experienced transmission in some way. Maybe recently, maybe this morning, right? And I'm curious, when you think about transmission, how have you experienced it here? What was it like for you? Sandra.
So when you were saying, and I was thinking about that, I think that transmission that's a big responsibility to live my life as it is, with very wholeheartedly and aware, because that's what I'm going to transmit to everybody that's around me. I don't have kids, but my patients or the people around me or my nieces. So it's this irradiation you transmit. And that reminds me a lot of the Brahma Vihara. Really the Brahma Vihara, for me, I found that's the way to do this change or help, not the changes, to do apportation, to give my part. I don't know if that makes sense what I say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And sitting next to you at dinner the other day when we were talking, I feel that from you. I feel that radiating from you in exactly that way, in your care and your laughter. Michael.
So I actually think of transmission in sort of two forms. One with like a capital T, which is what I think that we've mostly been talking about. And also there's the transmission with a little t. And I've noticed as a result of the work that I do here and other places that I have such a much greater opportunity to be present with other people. And in that presence, there's a change in the relationship, and there's a change in me, and there's a change in the other person. And that's what I think of as transmission with a little t. Because I don't know the Buddhist readings and all of that other stuff. And I have little interest in trying to convey that. But this sense of being present, which occasionally arises, is what I'm doing this for.
Yeah, so what I was hearing is, thus you will raise up Buddha activity at innumerable practice places of Buddha Tathagatas everywhere, and cause everyone to have the opportunity of ongoing Buddhahood. So that little t transmission is not less significant than the big T. The big T is just a demarcation in the way you're framing it of, yes, there's a particular thing that's happening or a ceremony or recognition, not more or less important than the little t. All the same. Joel.
I just want to express my appreciation for what Michael just said, and thank you for this, for what you and Peg are presenting today. I just want to say, it seems like, as Michael was pointing to, that it's less about what and more about how. It becomes a how you live your life rather than a clearly demarcated point of having attained this or that or the other thing. Thank you.
And I can share that points me to yet another one of the anxieties that came up for me as we were doing that, about how you live your life. I was joking with someone. I said, my sins are many and well documented. And so I had, all of my shortcomings. Like, how could I possibly carry this forward? I don't have a glowing yellow light around my head, and at least I don't think I do, in the way that I imagined, a sage would need to have. And then I started to look at that story a little bit more. Say,
So the Shuso ceremony.
yeah, my snakes will heaven and earth. Right. Wash your ears.
So I was thinking about, again, the little t, like Michael was talking about. Years ago, John was mentoring me through the practice period, and he suggested I read Mother of All Buddhas. He said, and it just so happened you were doing that book with Depth in Practice. So I started coming to Depth in Practice. Matt was there, and Kim, and several other people. And I wish I could remember the exact place and the exact words, but I know it was on the left page down near the bottom. It was a sentence, because it was so powerful for me, because I have talked to Peg about this many times in practice discussion over the years, and that is my inadequacy and low self-esteem around the fact that I do not understand all of the scriptures, all of the, I just don't get it, and I have no desire to, not what I want to. But there was a line in there that said something along the line of, if you are not worried about all of this, you're already enlightened. I have never forgotten that, how that little simple phrase just freed me from that. And I still worry about it, but I come back to that and remember that if I just come and sit, that's what counts.
Yeah. Thank you. Special transmission beyond words and letters. Right? And we were talking about that. It's easy to get wrapped up in thinking, I need to know all the things. And whatever all the things would be, go look at the books that are still here and go, there's no way I could even know all the things on these bookshelves, let alone, what things would I imagine that I could know? Which in some ways is kind of freeing.
Yes.
Right? And because you're never going to run dry. And it relieves you of the responsibility to know everything. You just offer what you can offer.
My question is for Peg, because I recall during an intensive we had during COVID, in which you and Flip we were all online. I remember saying, what is your succession plan? And so to me, it's delightful that you are entrusting someone. And I'm also curious, are you envisioning, since you and Flint have always been sort of a team, and as a woman, it's been very nice to have both the female and male presence. I'm curious if you're considering if you're going to choose someone else as well.
Not dead yet.
Well, I realize that, but
When did you get your t-shirt?
Well,
I don't know that we heard that. Was it, I'm not dead yet?
you said,
Okay.
Peg said, not dead yet.
Just put it on your email signature, I'm still here.
Reports of my death.
But in those times,
That
everything.
will not be up to me.
Oh, really? Okay.
That will be up to Nate.
Oh, okay.
So this is one of the functions of a lineage holder, right? Is to identify who comes next. So
We could give other Dharma transmissions, Flint and I, and it's possible that he will, because he has some folks out there, who are teaching now, who are good candidates probably. So that's not, out of the question. But the succession is a succession, and so Nate's first responsibility is to keep an eye out for a Dharma error, possible Dharma error. We used to do in Great Vow during the echo, the echo in the middle where we dedicate the mirror. We used to also dedicate the merit for the terrible loss of the teachers who died without Dharma errors.
Oh, wow.
That's considered a karmic catastrophe.
Mm-hmm.
So you have as soon as you have Dharma transmission, it's like you're it. Now you have to tag somebody, like it's almost like that. You need to be aware. This needs to be conveyed. It needs to be transmitted. It can't stop with me. So that will be one of the considerations Nate will be under. But typically that isn't done for 4 or 5 years after you've had Dharma transmission, so that you really are marinated in it. You're really seasoned in it.
Mm-hmm.
But that is your charge. You now are the one holding that responsibility, and so
No pressure.
no pressure.
Well, I'm glad you explained that.
Yeah. It can be confusing because like here's me will have Dharma transmission, and very well Flint might go off to England and give Dharma transmission to someone there, and so it's not a straight line. So in the San Francisco Zen Center sort of understanding of it, it's branching streams.
Mm-hmm.
And we're a stream that branched off from traditional Soto Zen. All of our lineage holders will come on that branch, right?
Yeah, so it comes from you, not someone out here can't say, I'd like to do that.
No. In fact, that would be a disqualifier, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, because one of the first things that has to be dissolved is your inhibition.
Interesting.
Let me get this to Ken.
Thanks.
Oh, I have 2 things to say. One is in terms of ambition. I love the story that Buddha was the attendant to 500 Buddhas.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm imagining in the first job, he got rid of the ambition.
Right.
That's how the other thing is my step-grandfather, in Judaism, if you don't have a son, you don't have this kind of extension. And my step-grandfather, at that time, my grandmother couldn't have any more kids, even though she had 3 sons, but they weren't his. So he had to leave her and go to Mexico and find a wife and have sons.
Wow.
That's why they often had multiple wives, right?
That came later, this monogamy, how do you say
Monogamy.
it? Monogamy, yeah.
Monogamy came later.
Yeah.
Because the line was so important. That's interesting.
It's easy for me to get up.
Thanks. The runner.
I've just been sitting with the question you asked, Peg, of like what or how are things transmitted to you? And I really appreciate that, because like transmission big T is like I don't know what that means, and it seems like I don't know. Yeah, it's just like it just seems like this formal, very formal, maybe secretive thing or something that I just don't know. But asking like kind of what Michael was saying, the little T, it seems like it's like, and how I experience it is just like all of this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like this environment that y'all have created and that we have also helped create and maintain. Yeah, so just seeing that and recognizing that feels juicy.
Great word choice. That's right. I'm marinating. There we go.
Yeah.
But what's been created here has been co-created here and is continually being co-created and revitalized by every engagement, just like this. Every time we're sitting with one another, every time that we're breaking down with one another, every time that we're holding each other through distress, or celebrating and laughing and making inappropriate jokes on the porch, whatever it is, these are all ways that we're keeping this thing alive.
The thought that first of all, there's a word, a phrase that came up a lot in the Dogen reading you at the beginning of our talk, face to face. I mean, he used that a lot. which, and then also in the longer reading we're doing this morning, the Juju Samai, he uses so many words about things being beyond perception, inconceivable, out of unthinking, unremitting. So the reason I'm bringing up these words is because I'm thinking about how could we ever want you to know all the books in the library? Why would we? Because the essence of what you're doing is in this face-to-face and in this, you cannot comprehend one person, zazen. It's this intimacy. And so I guess my thought is that since we're so steeped in all of that, the idea that we would want you to be this all-knowing person is a concern you can drop right away, because
well, thank you.
because we kind of know better, from all of this practice that we've been steeped in this week. And when I've never been the morning timekeeper before, and I forgot to light the candle after our free walk time. I forgot to put it out when we went outside, and then I forgot to turn it back on or light it. And I was so comforted by thinking about Flint saying just one continuous mistake, and that's what his teaching is like, and how much compassion I have for him and for you, Peg, because would you feel that pressure to not make mistakes because you're in this leadership role? And it helps us when y'all make mistakes and cut yourself some slack around it, because then I was able to cut myself some slack about my own mistakes and not hang on to it as another ego-driven, oh, poor me, I did something wrong, and then if you guys are not expected of yourself to not make mistakes, it helps us, liberates us too.
So true, but you don't have to worry, actually, because we are always making mistakes. So we have had to come to terms with that, making mistakes in public. And I think anyone who's ever been a teacher, all of your mistakes are on full view of a far more critical audience.
Yeah, and it is liberating for us. So so just don't worry about that. And
I can commit to being a reliable teacher in that way.
Awesome.
Rosemary, yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to respond to the question about what's being transmitted here and through the practice for me. And I think it's the care that I experience all the time with the teachers, with you folks, with all of us. And I was thinking about Mahakashapa, the first transmittee, who, when the Buddha held out the flower, he was the only one that smiled. So it was a wordless transmission, and he understood. So I feel like a lot of flowers towards me and us. And, I appreciate it. Thank you.
That's a good way to think about it. What are all the flowers being offered, so to speak, right? And I think that each one of you and sitting in this room has held up a flower in some way, shape, or form for me along the way over the years, and folks on the screen as well. It's and we do that for each other, which is a beautiful offering. All right, last call. What else do you want to know? Before you get the real questions of Peg in a minute, but anything else you want to know about?
Well, you said it's been 9-month intensive.
Uh-huh.
What's that like?
There are some things I can talk about, and there are some things that are double top secret things. But a lot of, well, Peggy and I have been studying Dogen a lot together, which has been delightful, refreshing, and confounding, because Dogen, and I read dense text fairly consistently, but Dogen's a particular one. You have to get used to his voice. I feel like I'm back as a Shakespearean in college again, when you have to get used to the rhythm of the language. And then all of a sudden, after a while, it unfolds in beautiful ways. But when you're first starting, that's interesting. You get a whole bunch of encounters with your own ego and get to set that aside. And then a series of other just kind of starting to engage with the Sangha differently, thinking about what teaching actually requires, what holding this seat requires, and then a lot more to come in the next few weeks. So it's been a lovely process, and it's been disabusing me of a lot of my ideas about what I thought.
And as a non-monastic, what do you call, householder?
Yeah.
Is that harder? Like, how does that play a role? Because our other senior teachers were not raising children while they were leading the Sangha.
Yeah. So the way that I make the offering will be different. Now, I've got a 6-year-old. We live a little bit of ways away. There are things that will be a little bit different. And so that's stuff that we'll all live into together. But I think about it just like the monastic is making their offering, a monk is making their offering in the temple. We make our offering to our kids and in the world. It's not actually any different in that way. It's just where we make the offering is a little different.
Ben was probably, I want to say 14 when I started teaching. So,
Microphone, please.
Mike.
I was just saying, my son was 14 when I started teaching, so there was a lot of teen parenting involved. Yeah.
I got a few years for that.
I'm curious. Since you're going to receive transmission,
Yeah.
Have you sewn robes?
I've sewn a brown rakusu, which
Yes.
is with Flint right now.
Okay.
So yeah, you all get to see that soon enough.